I'm struggling to think of any ideas. So if you can think of any good ideas of what I could do, please share it, comment down below and let me know. In this tutorial, we're going to create this animation that you see in front of you now. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. All right, step number 1, select your default cube, press X, delete Shift A, and we're going to make use of a circle mesh in this example. Press Tab, go into edit mode, press F to fill, press numpad 1 for front orthographic view. Make sure you got everything selected, and press E to extrude, and then you can press S to scale it in, G, Z to move on the Z axis, something like that should be fine. And then we're going to press I to insert, numpad 1, press G, Z, lift it up to a point that you think is appropriate, something like that, and then press E to extrude. This is a very thin glass. Then we can press E to extrude again, and then press S as well, so it'll pull out this way, E and S. Decide on your thickness, perhaps something like that should be appropriate. Press E to extrude, press S, and what we could do at the bottom here is holding Alt, select everything, press Ctrl B, bevel it up to something that looks a little bit more glass shape, and perhaps Ctrl R, we create one cut somewhere here, and we press S and then Ctrl B just to give it a little bit more subtle shape. Press 3 for face select, choose the top face, press X. If you delete this face, the problem you run into is, it works fine. Okay, never mind. If you ran into a problem where it deleted these faces as well, just press Ctrl R, loop cut all the way to the top, then press 3 and select this and delete the face. Alright, now that we've got our cup, first thing we want to do is fill this hole. So holding Alt, press 2 for edge select, holding Alt, and then press F to fill. Perfect. So our basic glass shape has been made, but we now need to use modifiers. The first modifier we're going to use is a solidify modifier. We're going to make this nice and thick, even thickness. Let's take a look at this, closer look. It looks good. And we're also going to select this top rim, press G, Z, bring it, there we go, clipped in nicely, fix that error. So if you ran into that, there you go, that's how you fix it. Control R, hold on, let's go, so we can see on the inward part, Control R, just lift it up from the other side as well, so we get a nice rim, nice lip. Alright, next thing we want to do, tab object mode, right click, shade smooth, and object data properties, normals, auto smooth at 30. And perhaps to make it even smoother, after the solidify, you want to add a subdivision surface, put it on 3, it should make it look super smooth. And if you don't like, well, let's fix the bottom shape here, edit mode, press Ctrl R for loop cut, bring it all the way down to the edge, tab object mode, let's take a closer look. Okay, we don't necessarily like that, so we're going to fix that, edit mode, Control R, hold on, let's try that again, Control R, let's just undo a few taps, okay, Control R, and let's select all of this, F to fill, 2, choose this face over here, hold on, I'm not actually choosing it, am I? F to fill. I think I've got it. Press I. And we want to create an inset. Something like that should be fine. Tab object mode. X-ray off. Now that looks super smooth. Perhaps we want to just make one more cut here. Control R. You don't want to go too far. Just as close to the edge as possible without going too far. Something like that should make it smooth. And if you want to play with this, Control R, you can decide how much thickness this should be as well. And perhaps something like that might be considered more elegant, but doesn't match the shape of this piece here. So what we could do, let's try and select the top rim, numpad 1 for front orthographic view, turn on proportional editing, and we'll try smooth. Let's press G, pull this out a bit. S, if we bring that in a bit. Select this, S, scale that out a bit, but this time we want to perhaps limit it to the top shape, and you're kind of just forming the basic outline design of your glass. Also over here we want to fix this, Control R. Hold on, that's not it. Control R, bring this all the way down, and that looks a lot cleaner. And you could make it even cleaner if you want. Control R, hold on. Control R. There we go, that's pretty clean. Quite happy with that. And yeah, the glass is an interesting enough shape to work with. And you could also make the bottom look a little bit more sharp if you wanted to, which I don't think we should, but I'll show you. Just bring this down, create a loop cut, and you go down like that. Oh, hold on. I'm gonna go Control R. And bring it to about there. Very clean cut. All right, now that we've done with our basic shape of our weird looking wine glass, I guess, let's should we add more thickness, or is this thick enough? This is fine. I'm quite happy with that. You could mess with the lip a bit if you press Alt GG. You just bring this down a bit. Or you can just dissolve this edge completely. We don't need it. Let's try this again. GG. There we go. Lip is becoming a little bit more smooth on the top, not so solid. And the reason why we want some thickness is because we're going to have a simulation. But overall, I'm happy with this. What's going on here? Delete face. F to fill. Turn off proportional editing. Numpad 1. G, Z. Let's bring this down a bit. Okay. So what we could do is we could just chuck it over here like that. And then we just need to create a loop cut over here. Control R. Not too much, obviously. tricky messing with this. Let's mess with this loop cut. It doesn't look right here. No, man. X dissolve vertices. X dissolve vertices. Okay, so this is the basic shape. X dissolve vertices. Take a look. Oh, that's looking better. There we go. Control R. Dissolve vertices. I think what I'll do first is select this, dissolve vertices. Cool. I'll select this quickly, and I will, number one, press GZ, just bring it down a bit. Then press Control R. And you can kind of go with the style that you're going for. All is gravy. Press 3, select this. Press I. Then press Control R. And pull it out. Control R. So this seems to be glitchy. Why is it glitching out now when I need to make this? Frustrating. S, scale this down. There we go. That's a little bit better. Okay, that's good enough. Don't want to spend too much time on this. All right, now we can move on to the next stage. Let's add the material textures. Tab, object mode. Tab, edit mode actually. Numpad 1 for front orthographic view. And we are going to select all of this over here. Of course, we need to turn on X-ray mode. Here we go. That's looking good. Object data properties, vertex group, top, assign. Press Control I to invert your selection and create a new group. Bottom, assign. Now you can switch between those two quite easily, and perhaps we want to go crazy here. Turn off that. You might want to press Alt, just select one line like that, and Shift Alt, Shift Alt. Maybe one over here as well. Shift Alt. Okay, cool. So that's the random basic shape. I'm doing this by eye quickly without really paying attention. It's more or less good enough. Now with all of this selected, we're going to press Shift D to duplicate. Right click again, separate selection. Tab, object mode. We're going to click on this, and we're going to click on object and convert it to a curve. I don't know if we're going to make this in metal or something, but glass attachment. Just for something unique, go to your object data properties of your now curve, increase the resolution on 3D, go to geometry, profile, give it some thickness that you think would be appropriate. Normally with elegant glasses, the thinner the better, but We also want this to be somewhat visible, so that should be okay. Also increase the resolution so it's more round. Let's look at this general shape. Oh, that's okay, but perhaps we want to create our own shape. Or use a preset. I like that. You can obviously click on this to rotate it to get a different angle. Steps. Nah, steps suck. Let's use that. This one here I think look quite cool. Yep, that looks quite nice. And now that we've got our interesting shape, let's change the angle. I prefer, they're both good enough. Okay, cool. So we've got our shape. Next thing we want to do is go to our material settings, press new, and I'm going to make this a metal glossy. Make it a gold, and just give this roughness 0.15 and click assign. Well, it should be automatic. Change to material viewport, and now our scene needs a surface. Shift A mesh plane S20, give this a material, and we are going to make this glossy as well. Perhaps make it that color 0.15. 0.15 might be a bit strong, perhaps 0.2, so it's a little bit blurry. 0.18. Yeah, 0.18 is good enough. Still got all the texture from the HDR. We're going to add an HDR texture. You can go to hdrhaven.com to download one. I'm going to use one that only have one that I've downloaded recently. And it will take a few seconds to load into the scene if you look at your render view. I don't want to see this, so I'm going to go to my render settings, film, transparent. However, it still reflects on my objects, and I'll prove it to you now. Let's select our glass. Let's give it a new material. Let's click on glass. And we need to also make sure that this is on alpha blend, so it's transparent. Turn on screen space refraction, subsurface, put this on 0.1, go to your render settings. I like to have a bunch of these things on, so while I'm here, I'm gonna turn refraction on as well to make the glass look more like glass, so to speak. And we could mess with other stuff later on. Let's just take a look at this. If you look very carefully, you can see the snow reflecting off this already. But we'll do a better job shortly. Point is, that looks like glass to me. Right, next thing we want to do is select this. And we're also going to give this a quick fluid effector is planar with a little bit of thickness, and we're going to press Shift D, right click, RX90, GY, and just push this back a little bit, Shift D, RY90, GX, I'm going to move this back over here. Cool, so now we've got a nice scene, which is going to make this look a lot better. And let's just remove the collisions from things that don't need it. No need to waste CPU power on that, but let's change the color just to make it a bit more interesting. New color, we can delete the old color, click new. Let's keep it to the glossy theme. This time I'm going to make it blue. 0. There you can see the snow when I make it 0, but We don't want that. We want 0.18 like the other one. So it's not visible, but it still creates interesting textures. And we're going to add a new material here. Delete that. Click new. And we're going to give this a strength of, I don't know, green. Or first change it to glossy. Green. 0.18. And now we've got our basic scene set up with our interesting looking object. Well, interesting enough. And we can see through the glass, which is good, which is quite important. And perhaps just for safety, select this, Shift D, right click, rotate on the y-axis 90 degrees, click GX, bring this out over here. Give this a new material, delete the old material, use, change to glossy, 0.18. And let's give this an orange color. All right, that should be enough for the scene. If we view this through the camera lens, we've got this. So we select our camera, press G to lift this up to about there. Actually, to about there. Actually, where it was is fine. Let's just go to the object data properties and scale this out a bit, so we can see the whole thing. So this would probably be a relatively good starting point. Let's press numpad 1. I'm just going to hide what I don't need to see right now. Numpad 1. I'm going to press Shift A, Mesh, UV Sphere, GZ, lift this up to about here, S to scale this in, right click, Shade Smooth, G, Shift D, numpad 7, perhaps we want to numpad 1, perhaps we want to put this down, G, somewhere like that. And what we can do with these in the meantime, go to your physics properties and click Fluid, Effector, and just give it a little bit of thickness for the small one. Yeah, the big one should be big enough where it won't be necessary, but just in case, we'll do it as well. Effector, and there we go. Select this glass, and we want to create a fluid simulation on the glass itself. Effector, and we want to make sure that this is thick enough to withstand the simulation. Hopefully 0.001 will be good enough. We will see shortly. Next thing we want to do is press numpad 1, press Shift A, Mesh, GZ, lift this up, S, right click, Shade Smooth, G, Z, and we're going to add a subdivision surface modifier. Right click, Shade Smooth. Suzanne is looking tight and she's perfectly within there. So now all we need to do is click Object, Quick Effects, Quick Liquid. And when you're dealing with a quick liquid, you click on your liquid domain, go to your physics properties, and you want to up the resolution for a better result. So if we increase this to about 128 at the very least, it will fill the ears. hopefully. We'll see in a second. But if you've got a potato PC like mine, you don't need to increase it to 128 because it's going to slow down your simulation. Let's scroll down here and mess with a few settings. Click on Mesh to turn on Mesh. Click on Diffuse. Give it a few seconds to load if you've got a potato PC like mine. Let's change the preset to honey. Alright. And then we can also change this to all. But make sure you got resumable because we want to test it out. When it catches up to frame 20, we will know whether this is working properly. But before we do that, let's select these balls, give it a material, and we're going to press New, Emission, 30, give it that color. Select the other one, New, Emission, 30, and let's just view this in our render view. Let's hide this quickly. One thing you also want to do with this monkey head is click over here and turn off disable and render. We definitely want to disable Suzanne in the render. We only want the liquid to show. Right, the final thing you want to do is, before we mess with the cameras, we need to bake this in to make sure it's working. And you do that by selecting your liquid domain, which is over here. Scroll down, go into physics properties, scroll down, and go to your catch and click bake. Once it reaches bake frame 22, I will unpause the video. I'll show you. We'll see. All right, because we selected resumable, we can hover our mouse over here, press escape. It'll take a few seconds to cancel. And we can press numpad 1. So we can see some leakage is happening, but for the most part, most of the liquid seems to be contained. And for this example, that is good enough, especially with what I'm planning to do with this. Only thing I did make an adjustment with is I increased the surface thickness to 0.015. But that's going to be good enough for my example. I'm fine with that. So I'm just going to finish it off then. Click on the liquid domain. Scroll down and just resume, and I'll see you after it's completed. All right, so let's just quickly view how it looks. Go back to frame 1. Let's just change it to material viewport so it's a little bit lighter on the engine, and press play. Solid view should be fine as well. A little bit of leakage, which sucks. I think I'll make a tutorial on how to prevent the leakage, which is quite frustrating. But it should stop when the liquid cools down. At frame 60, there should be no more leakage, in theory at least, around 60. Still leakage. Pause. 200. $250. My word. So there's leakage all the way to the end. That sucks, but it's going to have to do. All right, the next thing we want to do. Also, it's going into this mesh. There will have to be another tutorial on that. Right, next thing we want to do is switch back to render view mode. And we're going to mess with the water shader editor. So currently this is how water is made, glass for the surface and volume absorption for the volume. But we're going to take this glass over here and we're going to zoom in, just view it over here. We're going to create a new window here and make it a timeline. Go back to keyframe 1. All right, and at keyframe 1, let's press Shift A, shader, mix, Shift A, shader, emission. This means when we're on factor 0, it's 100% water. And let's make this 30. Change this color to blue, and if we increase this factor, it becomes blue. Okay, so the first thing we do at keyframe 1 is we press I. Then at keyframe 30, can't even see what's inside there. Let's change the factor to 0.5. No, 0.2. No, 0.1. I kind of prefer 0.1. Also, hover over this over here and press I. And what we could do, no, let's not use a random color, let's manually choose. Let's go to frame 60. Perhaps we change the color. Hover over this, press I. If we increase this factor, how does it look? See, it blocks out all the detail if it's too sharp. Maybe make it 0.4. Press I. Let's go to 120. Let's change the color. Hover over this, press I. Let's go to 200. Change it to green, press I. And perhaps we can reduce, or we can just increase the fraction. I. And we can go to 250. Give it a second to load. Let's change the color to there we go, press I. Let's pull back. Let's go back to 200. Let's go back to 120. Let's make 120. Oh, actually, it's fine. It still looks okay. See how it looks at 0.4. Yeah, let's press I. Okay, cool. I think we're done with the liquid itself. One thing we probably want to take into consideration is this glass. What would the difference be if we made this 0? Can't see behind it. Made this 1. Can't see anything. 0.05. That's no good. Let's view it through the camera view. Okay, let's set up the camera quickly. Numpad 7. Shift A, mesh. Not mesh, we want to use an empty circle. S5, RX90. There we go. Select, where is my camera? There's my camera. Shift, select the camera. No. Control P. Now we can just select, hold on. I did it the wrong way around. Come on, silly. Okay, select the camera. Shift, select this. Select the camera. Come on. GZ, lift this up. Select the camera, shift, select this, Control P, object. There we go. Now keyframe 1, we can press I, rotation. Go to frame 180. Rotate on the Z axis 360. Click I, rotation. And if we did this correctly, go to keyframe 1. Yep, that's looking pretty good to me. And obviously the liquid is slowly but surely changing color, which is great. Let's make this visible. So we got that side covered. Select that, Shift D, Y, chuck this on this side, yeah. Give this a new color. Glossy. 0.1. Gold. Okay, we can't have 2 gold, so let's change this to, I think we've got green. Maybe make it purple. Okay, cool. Our scene is pretty much done. The last thing we want to do, hide these things that we don't need to see. Go back to this, our glass. Let's do a few more adjustments here. Select it, tab, edit mode. Go to your object edit properties. Select the bottom. Go to your material settings, create a new material, press new, and we're going to make this glossy 0.1. Currently it's silver. Click assign. Tab object mode just to view it quickly. Let's just increase this to 0.15. 5. Alright, it doesn't really look that silver, so let's do a few other things. Well, we could just change the color to gold. It's a bit more noticeable. Matches the handles a little bit better. But let's do something different here. Tab, edit mode, Control R. Undo. Okay, perhaps we can't do that, but we could do this. We could press numpad 1, select this single vert. I think it's Shift Alt B, or is it Control Alt B? Control Alt B. Come on. Okay, so if I do anything to this, it's going to freak out. Okay, so basically what it's telling me to do, because I don't want to recache this, I'm just going to select all of this, Shift D, right click, separate selection. Okay, now that this is a separate selection, I can press Tab, go into edit mode, Control R. Let's get rid of this so I don't see it, it's in the way. Control R. That's where I want it. Press 1 for vertex select. And we'll select this vert, for example. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and we're just going to do this around this object. That we'll have to do. We have to press Control Shift B. There we go, now it's working. So we'll click it to about there, should be fine, and then a menu will appear. And let's make this 0.5 or 0.3, 0.1. There we go, that's a bit better. Let's increase the segments to 5. My PC is struggling, and then make the shape round by making this 0.1, 0.05, it's a bit too square, 0.15, 0.9, sorry, 0.09. Now let's make it 0.1. Slightly egg-shaped, but it's okay. Cool. Now we can go over here, create a new group. Rename it to something you'll remember. Come on, Blender. Holes. Wow, my computer sucks. Holes. Click assign. Perhaps what we could do is press E, Z. Actually undo. First need to select individual origin. E. on that. G. Hold up. Ah, it's because I have that shape below. E, Z, click. Control B. Sorry, Control Shift B. Ah, not worth it. My computer's going to die if I bevel this to death. That's going to have to work. Tab Object Mode. I could make it holes, but you know what? I kind of like that. Just gives it a little bit more texture. But perhaps because, which is probably a bad idea what I'm going to do, but hey, let's do it. I am going to press Edit Mode. Object Mode. Oh my word, I did it to the actual mesh. Silly me. Tab. Select this, tab, Edit Mode. Material. Let's delete that. Oh, we can't. Okay. Let's add a new material. New. And let's make this an emission. Strength of 5. Assign. Tab, Object Mode. Alt H. And I think we are done. Let me just zoom out. I think we are pretty much ready to render. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this brief tutorial. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. And comment. Let me know what kind of content you guys want to watch. I doubt anyone's going to make it to the end of this video, but it's every day, bro. And I want to get my content better, but I don't want to waste too much time editing. All right. One last thing, I can't help myself. I increase the strength to 30. Just to be different, I'm going to press Shift A, Input Object, and we're looking for something called Object. Let me just search it over here. Object Info. There we go. And we can connect random into the color. Shift A. And we're going to add a converter color ramp. HSV, far, there we go. Let's do the same over here. There we go, we've got the full color spectrum. And it looks like, because this isn't an emitter, sorry, clearly I can't do it this way, but at least I get the full color spectrum. We're going to actually have to separate these. Let's press 3 to choose faces. And I'm holding an Alt. Hold on. Alt Shift, Alt Shift, Alt Shift, Alt Shift, Alt Shift. Okay, I think that's the entire face. And from the looks of things, I need to set it a new color. That's a bit of a loss. I'm going to keep on holding Alt Shift. And make this a separate group, so if I want to change this later on, it's easier as well. think that's everything. Assign, object data properties, create a new group, double tap to rename this group, and the computer finally registers what's going on. Holes 2, click assign. Cool, so now if I change this color, I can change it to whatever I like. And I can go back to my colors and perhaps just rather just because I can't do much here, rather just connect color. All of this is excessive, we can delete it. Shift A, input RGB. Make this 100% bright and then just choose a blue for contrast. So it's offset a little bit so it stands out. Your eye catches it. Tab object mode. Yeah, you can just about see. One thing I do want to play with is the bloom radius. Let's make it less. Let's make it 3.5. So it's still got a radius, but it's not consuming the scene. Cool, I think we're done. I'm going to render this out now into images before making it a video and then finally making it a GIF. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.